The list of tips reads like a training manual for undercover espionage. Some volunteers may wish to install hidden motion-activated game cameras or tiny pinhole video recorders to record activity. Additional cameras on the street to capture car models and license plates could also be useful. In-person monitoring through the night may not be feasible, but if undertaken, should be done with caution and well armed, as criminals caught in the act can be dangerous. Now, this is not Mission Impossible or even James Bond or even Rear Window. This is a manual for poll watchers in Michigan. And the things being monitored here are drop boxes. The manual that details all these tips, it's 28 pages long, and it was made by a group called Michigan for America First. If you look at the group's website, you can see that Michigan for America First, well, it's actually just an affiliate group. It's a local chapter of a group called the America Project. And the spokespeople for the innocuously named America Project, spokespeople are these guys: former Overstock.com CEO Patrick Byrne and former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, which is particularly concerning. You probably remember Michael Flynn for a million reasons, and none of them very good. And you might even remember the Overstock CEO, but the two of them together as a team calls back to one specific thing. In December of 2020, those two men were part of a small group that met with Trump in the Oval Office and tried to convince him to order the U.S. military to seize voting machines across the country. They even drafted an executive order for it. But this time, those two are not marching into the White House and going after the election at the national level. They are going after the most fundamental aspect of our democracy from the ground up. Ballot box by ballot box, precinct by precinct, all over the country. Here is Flynn this past weekend speaking to a crowd of 5,000 people at a far-right Christian nationalist event in Pennsylvania.
So my big thing, it has been for a long, long time, but particularly in the last couple of years, has been to get involved at the local level. And I use this phrase, local action equals national impact. On your way back home, start to think about what it is that I can do. And honestly, if you can go volunteer in a local precinct, that's great. I mean, go do that. If you've never done it, I never did it. I didn't have the time to do it, but this time I said I'm going to do it. My wife and I went and attended the training the other night. It was very easy. It took a little over an hour, some good questions, and we're going to go to our precinct captain. We're going to get on the schedule, and we're going to stand there, and we're going to watch, right? We're going to observe.
Local action equals national impact. And this is not just Flynn and his group. This is the new far-right Stop the Steal strategy overall. Just like we have far-right groups showing up to city council and school board meetings across the country, election-denying groups are all focused on the local. There are groups like the Election Integrity Network, run by a conservative activist and former Trump 2020 election lawyer, Cleta Mitchell. They claim to have trained more than 20,000 people around the country on election law so they can observe local elections. Given who Mitchell's fan base is, almost all of those people are likely election deniers. And then there are groups like the one run by former Tea Party activist Daniel Schultz. It's called Precinct Strategy, and it's aiming to get as many election deniers as possible to sign up to actually work their local elections. And then there's just a seemingly endless list of groups like Michael Flynn's, ones that are calling specifically for the physical monitoring of drop boxes and frequently calling for people to be armed while doing so. All of this is coming more into focus as we get closer to Election Day, but we've already known for months the amount of damage this far-right focus on local elections has had already. Earlier this month, a man was arrested in Iowa for threatening a local election worker in Maricopa County, Arizona. He left voicemails saying, "I am a victim of a crime. The crime was the theft of the 2020 election. Do your job or you will hang. We will see to it. Torches and pitchforks. That's your future." In August, the Department of Justice briefed the public on the overwhelming volume of threats they've seen against election workers. In August, months before the election even started, they'd reviewed over 1,000 hostile or harassing instances reported by election officials. 11% of those instances met the threshold for a federal criminal investigation. That is pretty easy math. That means the Department of Justice found more than 100 instances of people being so hostile to election workers that their actions might be a federal crime, and they found that months before the election. Google your state and the words election official resigns, and the results will likely scare you. In Nevada, 10 of the state's 17 counties have had clerk turnover since 2020. In Pennsylvania, nearly 50 top election officials have left their posts. But all of this does not mean we should be hopeless. And it doesn't mean that local communities and local election officials can't defend themselves. I mean, the law is on their side. Just today, one of the groups pushing for armed ballot box washers in Arizona, an Oath Keeper-affiliated group called the Lions of Liberty, now a group with an admittedly sort of incredible logo that features Lady Liberty on a golden cloud flanked by two lions' heads. Today, the Lions of Liberty released what they called an official stand-down order. They explained that they had been named in a federal lawsuit, and realizing the consequences of that lawsuit, the Lions of Liberty have decided to back off. In their words, Operation Dropbox is officially closed. There are still plenty of other groups planning to harass and intimidate local elections officials and voters all across the country. But there are ways for them to fight back locally.